We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 50 or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most fulfilling, and productive lives now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Heather Stewart, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Heather Stewart is a dynamic force in the wellness world. She seamlessly marries her background in corporate finance with her fervent dedication to holistic health to help guide transformative coaching experiences for her clients. She found her own escape from the societal expectations of a career at the expense of health and vitality, and now helps other midlife women do the same. Using her Thriving Life Method framework, she helps overwhelmed overachievers connect to their inner purpose so they can intentionally create a new roadmap to the way they were meant to live. She is also the host of Back to Me podcast, helping guide wellness your way. Welcome, Heather. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thanks, Sarah. I am so glad that we connected.
So in getting started, let me just ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why is it that you think you don't?
That's an interesting question, because some days I would say, yes, I experience getting older. You get out of bed. Like this morning, I got out of bed and thought, oh, my back is really stiff. But most days I would say I don't experience getting older because I don't imagine myself as old. And it's interesting. So I am 58, and I can remember, what I thought a 58-year-old woman looked like. And I can remember what my mother looked like or acted like at my age. And I thought, wow, she's old. But having reached this age, and maybe it's my outlook of I've still got lots to do, that keeps me young, and I'm still engaged with people. So sometimes I'm old and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes my husband accuses me of being a teenager.
Good for you, Heather. You just keep being a teenager some of the time. That's great.
Yeah.
How would you suggest that a woman who feels really stuck gets started? What would be the first steps?
So that's a super interesting question, because it depends. And I am not a believer in a one-size-fits-all solution to anything, even though I attend workshops that are, going to change your life. But because they all have a tidbit, a clue for you. So someone who is stuck, the first step is, what are you stuck in? Because I've talked to so many people where so much of their life is working, but there's a piece that's not working that is kind of discoloring or throwing off them being able to enjoy the other parts of their life. So the first step is to, and most people won't do this, sit down, be quiet with yourself, gather your thoughts. I like paper. I love paper. we're old school, right? We love paper. Write down everything you can think of that's going right in your life, and write down all of the things right now that you're not enjoying about your life. Because somewhere in there, there's a clue of what needs to be worked on. Because sometimes when you're overwhelmed, it feels like you just got to chuck out everything, right? Like, let's throw it out all out and try over. But that means you throw out good stuff too. So instead of doing that, figure out which piece isn't working, and then don't try to change don't try to change it all overnight. One step at a time. Like, pick something that's not working. And believe it or not, for some people, the easiest thing to fix is getting enough sleep. That solves so many problems for so many people. Getting enough sleep, because that can help with your physical, that can help with your emotional, that can help with your relationships, it can help your job. So many things can be fixed by getting enough sleep. So, long answer to a short question, get some clarity on what it is that's causing you to struggle right now so that you can start to think, brainstorm solutions. And if you don't know, impartial people, someone who can help you kind of talk through it. Some people process better out loud. I mean, sometimes I'll run a Zoom meeting by myself to talk to myself, believe it or not, because I like to process out loud. Make sure if you ask someone to help you kind of navigate through it, if you have a person, that they don't have some kind of meaning to or not to background agenda, someone who can be impartial and hold space for you and tell you the truth about what's going on. Someone who won't try to gloss over places where you're struggling. Because sometimes I hear, like, oh, you'll get over it. Oh, it'll be fine. That keep calm. My grandparents were British, keep calm and carry on. But that's not necessarily the way to get through life anymore. You can make changes and you can fix it.
Two things I love, Heather. A lot of what you said I love, but two things stand out for me. One is I oftentimes say, let me say this and I'll see if I think that's true.
Right.
Because I need to hear it. And then I'll oftentimes say, no, no, that's not what I think. But the second thing is really fascinating because tell me if this is true or not. My hunch would be that for a lot of people, when they write down what's going well and what's not going so well, they actually come out with a whole bunch more that's okay, that's going well, that is, is acceptable. And then there are fewer things that aren't going well, but they're allowing that to color their whole life. Is that true or not?
I have seen that a lot. Like, one thing can throw your enjoyment of everything that's fabulous about your life off. And we do tend to focus as humans on the negative, which helped us when we were, living in caves and afraid of being eaten. We have this hardwired into us that we are anticipating or expecting bad things to help, and that helps keep us safe. But these days, it doesn't serve us very well to always be focusing on the negative, which is why I think people are recommending things like gratitude. Do your gratitude journal in the morning. What are you grateful for? Or do it at night. Or, I mean, I'm an on again, off again journaler. So instead of making myself follow some regime where I have to write something every day, I actually every day, just when I get up, I look up the window and I say thank you to this big tree outside my window because it's such a beautiful tree. And that just lights up my day. That's a good way to start my day. On the other side of that, though, there are people that I have coached, knew they were unhappy and knew the reasons they were unhappy, and they didn't know anymore what made them happy, which I found really surprising because this was someone who I actually knew her personally, and she asked me to help her through something she was struggling with. And I thought she was someone who she had so much, and she was in her 60s. She's amazing shape. She was an outdoor person. She was so awesome from my perspective. But I had to make myself, step back and not decide what her state of being should be and help her navigate to figure out what did actually make her happy. and help her unplug from being stuck in the spiral of stuff that wasn't working. Kind of, let's take the off ramp and go over here to the stuff that's good. You can leave that other stuff behind you, right?
I would guess, and you will know better than I if this is true or not. Part of why some people may not know what makes them happy or not know what makes them unhappy or why everything is the way it is that they are in such overwhelm that they just can't really think about anything very clearly because they're so overwhelmed. If that's true, what do you think the best way out of overwhelm is?
So, overwhelm is that state. I mean, it is a mental state, but it's also a physical state. And my thinking around overwhelm is it's like so much of your body systems are on high alert. And we know that the way the neurobiology of the brain is when you're on that kind of high alert or fear status, your higher thinking functions actually do shut down. So you can't think. So you're absolutely right. You can't think, which is why to help people who are overwhelmed, I have to help them get out of that state so that they can start to think again. So I have a few strategies that I use with people. One is that writing everything down, because in my opinion, your brain is a factory, not a warehouse. So if you're trying to keep everything and all the thoughts are swirling around in your head, your brain can't produce anything because, everything's backed up in the factory. So you have to get it out onto paper so you can clear the decks. And it's just down in front of you in a physical form so you can see it and you can kind of get a handle on it. When it's just thoughts, they start building new thoughts off to the side. And you're like, I didn't think that thought. Where did that come from? So get it down on paper. Sitting down, I do some grounding techniques. I've been teaching yoga for over 20 years now. So I do kind of bring in some of that yoga knowledge. So grounding yourself physically down, feeling your body is important to help you keep you out of, like, people who are overwhelmed or stuck in the swirling of their brain. If you can get back into your body, I do that with deep breathing. I also, because some people just can't sit still, and if I ask them to meditate, they would think that I was some kind of crazy person. I just say, just stare at the window and daydream for 5 minutes, doing absolutely nothing. Because when your brain is in problem solving mode and it can't think, it's like these parts of your brain are fighting with each other. And your brain actually can't come up with ideas while you're in problem solving mode. So if you stare at the window and just don't follow any particular thought, don't do anything in particular, maybe just watch people walking around, your brain can start to organize itself. It can start to turn volume down on things that don't matter. It can start to resort things, and it can be creative. So taking 5 or 10 minutes to sit and stare out the window and daydream gives you a break. It's my secret way of giving people a break. Gives your brain time to kind of soften what's going on, and maybe you're in your body and breathing a little bit, which would be nice. And that all of those things seem super simple. So people won't do them because they're like, that's too easy. I want something hard. No, it's not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. Life isn't meant to be hard. It helps turn all that down. So when you come back to whatever it is that you're struggling with, if you've written it all down, you might look at it and go, oh, everything's fine except, like I had a client who everything in her life was really great, but the job that she was working at was not working well for her. She was struggling. They didn't appreciate what she was doing. They were undermining her at every turn. And she was really good at what she did. So when we figured out what was really wrong, we worked together and she decided to get a new job. And now she's back to fabulous again. So it can be one thing that's tripping you up. Like, it wasn't the work, it was her location of work, right? So
If somebody is in overwhelm and you suggest that they sit and quietly and look out the window or meditate or whatever, and if they like the outdoors, does it work to take a walk?
oh my gosh, yes. It's winter right now. I know that it's not going to be winter maybe when people are listening, but not everybody will go outside in the winter. But it also depends on where you choose to walk. If you're walking on a busy city street, it can be more agitating because there's cars honking and here there's bicycles zooming around and people and cars and everybody's kind of crawling all over top of each other. If you can go somewhere that's relatively quiet and somewhere in like these bathing is a thing because it works. And it's funny that we think forest bathing, what's you just go for a walk in the woods and you enjoy the fresh air from the trees, and if you can walk along the water, anywhere where you can get away from noise and be quiet. I mean, I live in a big city, so one of my tactics is we have some parks that I might walk through, or I not this isn't also for everyone. I do sensory deprivation once a month where I go to a float tank.
Say that again. I
And
didn't understand what you just said.
oh, sensory deprivation.
Yes, I've done those. I love them, but
I
it's not
have a
for
monthly
everybody, and you do
subscription.
need to get used to it because initially I found it frightening.
And some people do because, it's you might feel trapped, like if you have a tendency towards claustrophobia. It's interesting. The one that I go to has these actually very big, they're like 7 feet tall rooms. It's like a cubicle within a room that is the tank. So you're in a very big, wide, open, white space. And you can have a soft light on if you feel uncomfortable. You can leave the door open if you feel uncomfortable. I've probably floated about 75 times now, which apparently is quite high. I'm talking to the gentleman at the float location, but I find that because I find it noisy here and very busy, the very busy energy where I live, that is my space to unplug once a month. I just give myself a little break once a month to be quiet, float, let my mind wander.
For anybody who's listening who thinks they might like to try that, just when I have done it, and not so much after I did it for a while, but when I first started, I put myself in the tank so that I knew where the door. It was pitch dark. The one I did was pitch dark, and so I knew exactly where the door was, so I could put my hand on the door and I could leave it there if I wanted to, so that I was always sure where the door was. And then after a while, I got more used to it. But for anybody who is cautious about that, because it can be an unnerving experience initially.
It is, I think, unnerving for if because we are in this state of overstimulation. Most of us are constantly stimulated. Even when we're at home, we have something playing because quiet is just a little unnerving because we've become so accustomed to noise and the noise around us. And that actually feeds into our nervous system. That actually contributes to being overwhelmed is your nervous system doesn't ever get a break anymore because there's always ads and things and there's always radios and TVs. And I even see people walking who just have headphones on all the time. No quiet time. I know someone who she called it a digital detox, where she took 7 days, no internet, no telephone, no radio, no TV, no music, just silence. She was living, I think she lives in Florida. I think she's still in Florida. And it wasn't like she was completely cut off in a cave or something. She just chose not to to try and detox from all of the sounds and engagement. And she found it very helpful. Now, that might be a bit extreme for some people. That might be worse than going into a sensory deprivation tank. But there's a book that I read once actually called 24/6 by Tiffany Shlain. And it talks about once a week taking just 24 hours off of screens. And it was very interesting, her argument of why and what it does for your brain if you actually give it that rest time. Because sometimes the overwhelm is we've just not given our brains a rest. It's constant, constant, constant.
I haven't done this for a while, but now you've reminded me. I used to take a morning on the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, depending on what was going on that week, and not touch anything that was electrical or battery operated, nothing that was no screens, no radio, nothing. The only thing I could touch that was electrical was the teapot, was the tea kettle. And I could make tea. And it was sort of frightening how automatic my hand is to reach out to my phone. I mean, I could be in the middle of doing this and suddenly find my phone in my hand and not even realize I had done that. And that's really that's
We're
sort of,
very well trained.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look at when you go out for dinner with people. I have a rule when I go out that you're not allowed to have your phone on the table. It has to be away. But people are still aware of it. And they're still like, they still have that, oh, I've just got to check in case someone called me, or I just got to check this, or I've just got to. I mean, I leave mine on silent so that it can't disturb me. And people think I'm crazy. They think, I phoned you. I said, my phone's on silent. Why didn't you answer it? My phone's on silent. I'll call you back later, maybe if I want to. But I don't want to be, I try hard not to be the slave of my electronics. And as much as we have this idea that we created them to make our lives easier, we do have a lot of conveniences. I mean, we have so many conveniences. Sometimes I joke with my husband that it's convenience that's killing us because we don't know how to do anything anymore. Well, I mean, it's funny that I can still remember my parents' phone number and my high school boyfriend's phone number, his parents' phone number. I don't know what his phone number is. I remember his parents' phone number, but I can't remember anybody else's phone numbers because when I'm driving somewhere, I turn on Google Maps because I'm like, I don't know how to get anywhere. Imagine if, if the internet stopped. I mean, we're old enough that we remember life before internet and cell phones. I can remember when I got my first cell phone, but so quickly it has become such a integral part of our lives. And I agree using it as a tool, but I don't agree using it as a crutch or as a replacement for thinking. And our brains are muscles. They need rest, but they also need exercise.
I sometimes fantasize what 20, whatever number of years ago, if we had seen people today in a group and everybody was like this, we would have, what are they looking at?
Right. We would have thought Star Trek was here.
What is that thing? It's really funny. Oh, Heather, I've heard you talk about the importance of harmony over balance.
Mm.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So I guess so you mentioned in the beginning. So my first career, I was a CPA for 15 years. And as an accountant, you work 12-hour days and overtime and burning the midnight oil, but it's always sitting. So there's always these courses, these self-help you can find in the bookstore. Work-life balance, work-life balance, work-life balance. And I tried and tried and tried and tried. And after 15 years, because what I was doing was I was working and then I was going to yoga 5 days a week for stress. And it really was nothing was balancing out. I felt like I was just adding more, like piling more stuff on. This is also part of overwhelm. You can't pile more stuff on. I remember I had a chiropractor once he said, you've got all these balls in the air. I bet you if I throw you one more, they're all going to fall to the floor. I said, do not give me one more thing to do. So for me, balance doesn't work because balance is like this static state where, okay, I've got everything working. Don't add one more thing. I can't take one more thing. If you add one more thing, I'm going to fall because I'm perfectly balanced at this exact moment. It's almost like you're holding your breath. Where harmony is instead of trying to say this is work and this is my life, and you've pulled it into two parts and you're trying to make them balance out, I say let's look at your whole life. You've got your physical health, your emotional, you've got your relationships, you've got your job, you've got your financial health, and you've got your soul purpose. All of those things contribute to your whole person. And sometimes some of them are going to be working well, and sometimes some of them aren't. So harmonizing the six parts helps you kind of have like an easier, I think of sailing all the time. If you can harmonize those six parts so that if something does buffet you from the side, like something comes and something whacks you from the side, the rest of your parts can help you navigate it easily. So I think about, if you get sick. So I had a stroke in 2021. And at the time, I was still working as a massage therapist. I worked as a massage therapist for 14 years while I was teaching yoga and coaching and doing all the things. Had all the alls. And I mean, I was actually being awesome. I didn't feel overwhelmed. Everything was working really well, but I had a stroke and I had that moment of, oh my gosh, if I can't work, what's going to happen? Because I was suddenly physically unable to work. And I realized as I was messaging my clients from the hospital that I wasn't going to be able to get into work that day. I realized, okay, the community of people I've built around me is super supportive. I couldn't see anything properly because I had double vision from this stroke. And so I couldn't see my phone. I was in ER. I was alone for 3 days in ER. They didn't have beds in the hospital, and no one was allowed to visit me because it was COVID time. But one of my friends called everyone she knew, and they all sent me voice messages of support. So I had this awesome community. I felt emotionally healthy. I was financially okay because I had balanced out my finances. My husband was home cooking his butt off because that's what he does when he's stressed out. He cooks. And I felt like, okay, I have a 3 day, like I didn't know it was going to be 3 days. But at the end of it, I just realized I'd had a 3 day silent retreat in the ER where I could observe what was happening. It was Halloween as well in the inner city, where I could observe what was going on outside of this cubicle that I was in, all of this life that was going on. I knew I was safe. I knew that physically I was going to be taken care of. I knew that I had all these other supports in place. So my physical health got whacked, but I was still able to cruise through it with some grace and ease because I knew that I had harmonized the other pieces of my life to support me if something happened. And what actually came out of that time in the hospital was my program, the Thriving Life Method, because I realized, wow, I'm actually doing really well in here. And that's where my podcast came from because I said, why? I kind of went, universe, why am I in the hospital? I'm a super healthy person. Why did you send me here? And that's where my program came from. That's where my podcast came from. I was already coaching, but I was business coaching at the time. It just said, no, we have to go bigger than that. It's bigger than business. It's their whole life. I said, okay, I'm on it. So harmonize. That's a long answer to what harmonizing is, but
Oh, that's wonderful. So, in some ways, would you say that you benefited from having a stroke?
oh my gosh. Yes. And so many people will say, oh, that's so terrible. I'm like, no, it was great because I feel like it was, I mean, I half jokingly, I half seriously say the universe was giving me a wake up call and it kicked me in the butt as hard as it could without permanent damage. I mean, physically, I am back to as strong and as healthy as I was before. I had no cognitive deficits. My eyes, I can see again. So I I noticed only small things that came out of that. And what came out of it was I forgot the names of some things. But I'm like, as things go, if I put on my pros and cons list, that's pretty small compared to the benefits I got of the clarity that I got around how I can better use the skills I have to help people in a bigger way. the clarity around what's actually important and how important it is to have those supports in place because life is going to happen to you. Bumps happen, even in 2023, I fell. I was doing fabulous. I was in Egypt and visiting Jordan and I fell in the desert and broke my wrist. And people thought, "Oh my God, did it hurt?" I think. And I say, "I don't remember." Because I ended up having to go to three different hospitals in Jordan. And I just thought it was fascinating, you know. And all these people are coming up to me and blessing me. I think they were blessing me. They were all concerned for me. I had no idea who they were or what they were saying. And there's people everywhere in Jordan, like people are sitting on the floor. I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. And my lesson from breaking my wrist was receiving help, which is sometimes, as women especially, we need that. We need to learn that skill of accepting, asking for help and accepting it. I had to ask a stranger one day on the street to zip up my coat for me. It's like, so we jokingly say how you react to luggage, lost luggage says a lot about you, but when stuff happens to you, do you look at only the bad side of it, or can you see something else in there from it? So my stroke, I could be in the, oh my God, I had a stroke. Can't believe this, blah, story. I went to the, what can I learn from this story? And when I broke my wrist, I went from the, oh man, I'm an old woman now because fell and broke my wrist. Instead of that, I said, whoa, that was super interesting. What can I learn from this journey? And I, I did a podcast episode called What I Learned from Falling Down. I'm still due to do the follow-up of what I learned from getting up because it's the getting up part is where a lot of the lessons are.
So we're coming to the end of our time, Heather, but one of the things I know that you are interested in are the Akashic records. And there may
Yes.
be listeners who would really like to know briefly about the Akashic records. What are they?
Brief. I like how you put briefly. So I do read Akashic records. And if you can imagine that we are all energy, so everything we know in the universe is made of energy, we're just denser in this 3D form. We are a denser form of energy. And we can kind of feel tables and things. And if you can also imagine that since everything is energy and everything was all connected at some point, to the if we believe in the Big Bang or whatever we believe in, everything at one point was all one thing. And so everything that ever is, was, has been, will be, all possibilities of you all exist at the same time in various energetic forms. So the Akashic records are the energetic record of everything, possibilities, futures, pasts, alternate universes. And the Akashic records are where all of that information is stored. And as an Akashic records reader, I read my own all the time, which means I just ask that everybody has their own record keepers. So I ask my record keepers, who are just energetic entities, questions about life. Usually I ask them, is there something I need to know today? What can I know about my relationship with this person? What can I know about my business? And for other people, they come with kind of life questions. So with permission from them, I open their records and I ask their record keepers. And sometimes the record keepers speak in riddles, but they're always there for your highest and best good.
That is so interesting. So I can imagine, Heather, that people are going to want to get in touch with you. If they do, how can they do that?
Easy peasy. So everything that you ever want to find me wherever, if you go to HeatherStewart.coach, and that's STEWART, HeatherStewart.coach. It has links to all my podcasts, my programs, my Instagrams, Facebooks, you name it, LinkedIn's, all the alls.
Thank you so much for being here today, Heather. I really appreciate this was fascinating.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
So that's our time for today. Please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at primesparkwomen.com. Thank you so much to my guest, Heather Stewart, Heather, Stewart, Heather Stewart. And don't forget, you can find her at HeatherStewart.coach. Thank you for being with us. Spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.